Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So let's begin by talking about your book, Tech Humanist, where you mentioned that technology is driving the future.
Well, I think what inspired me to write Tech Humanist was just the idea that tech is increasingly an important part of business digital transformation. And I think a lot of the ways that business is going about that conversation tends to be tech-led. They're not thinking about, the organization's strategic purpose, which I think is a really important part of making sure that the digital transformation does the right things for the company, but as well as does the right things for humanity. So I feel like I'm trying to make sure that that is part of the discussion that happens around digital transformation.
So what, according to you, should brands or can brands and businesses do to incorporate technology in their communication?
So I think companies can incorporate technology in their communication, their advertising, their marketing more meaningfully by being very intentional about what they're trying to, how they're trying to connect with people and how they're trying to, what they're trying to achieve at scale. Yeah. So this is the idea behind Tech Humanist is if you are clear about your company's organizational strategic purpose, that you can use that to be better able to set priorities, determine the culture of the organization, create brand experiences, also create the data model and deploy technology that can bring that to scale. So that's really the effort that needs to be made.
So you mentioned meaning, and even in one of your recent articles, you actually mentioned that humans crave meaningful experiences. How do you think businesses can actually, make advertising more meaningful for consumers?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mentioned in my talk that I come from a language background. I was a linguist by education. So when I think about that, what companies need to do to make their marketing more meaningful and make their messages more meaningful, I come back to this framework in language. There's an idea in linguistics and communication that there are fundamentally three parts of communication. There's what the speaker says, there's the message itself, and then there's what the listener receives of that whole packet of communication. And wherever there's overlap between those things, you have shared understanding. And that's what meaning is. So it's analogous to when a company thinks about itself trying to create a message and the message itself and how the listener is going to receive it. If you try to create the most alignment possible between what the company exists to do and what the people outside the company are trying to achieve in the world, then you have the best opportunity to create a relevant, dimensional, meaningful experience for people.
All right, now speaking of India, because India has so many different languages, diverse languages and different cultures, so how do you think brands can sort of, when we talk about meaning, it's sort of to get the message out there, in one, in a certain way. But when you have a country like this with diverse cultures and diverse, interpretations of different messages and all of that, how do you think they can sort of tackle that problem?
That's a really good question, and it's a really big challenge for sure. I think certainly you would try to come back to human universals, right, and try to communicate in ways that come back to the fundamentals of human experience and what do we all know to be true. No matter what you're communicating in what language, maybe the metaphors are even different. Maybe in one language versus another, there may be references that aren't made in the other language, and so you can't rely on pure translation to get that across. But I do think we're getting to a point too where AI and other tools are going to be helping with that translation process. We're going to have more opportunity for real-time translation. So that's going to be an opportunity that is going to come up too.
Absolutely. In one of your recent articles on your website, which I read, you mentioned that it's amazing how much of data we use and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
How do you think companies going forward, can actually use data effectively while keeping the human in focus?
That's the big question, right? I think companies do need data. They need to make meaningful data models about what the company exists to do and is trying to do at scale. And you need to have measurable things that you're looking at for insights all along the way. And all of that is going to collect some data that has to do with the humans who are inside and outside the company, that are interacting with the company and different touch points. I think that companies have to be very clear and intentional about what data they're collecting, not collect more data than they need, not put the burden of responsibility of managing that data on themselves, because not only is it an ethical challenge, but it's a risk, it's a privacy risk. And I think we need to think about kind of broader government regulations that are right-sized and appropriate, that make the most sense for both constituents, both business and humans. And I think that humans need to be very careful about where we transact and how we do the work that we do and the interacting that we do with social media and the purchases we make. So be very clear and intentional about what we're doing that's creating the most meaningful experiences for us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to speak to you sometime soon again.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.